I am now going to turn the program over to another AmeriCorps alum. This is what we do. We put them everywhere, who is a current DCPS teacher, Keisha Harris, who is going to introduce our next conversation. Keisha.
Thank you, Michael, Jameer, and Alexis. My name is Keisha Harris, and I'm a first grade teacher at Lafayette Elementary School here in DC. I too began my career as an AmeriCorps member supporting young people in DC as a student success coach with City Year. It's great to hear stories from other people who served and where their careers have taken them since their year of service. I served in City Year, Washington, D.C. back in 2009, and then I loved it so much. I came back in 2010, and I was able to serve at the same school. I served at Stanton, which is also here in D.C. When I started City Year, I did not intend to be a teacher. I grew up my whole life with educators. My grandfather was a teacher, aunts and uncles are teachers, and I was determined I was going to be something different. I went into the classroom with City Year and I loved it. I met students that I saw me showing up every day and engaging with them daily. It made such a difference that I changed my mind. I wanted to become a teacher. I wanted to make that impact every day. I wanted to be a safe place that they could go to, somewhere that they could learn from, someone that they could talk to. It was more than just teaching them. I wanted to be able to be their friend, their support. I love that at my school, it goes up to 5th grade. I teach 1st grade. I actually started as a kindergarten teacher. I see my students in the hallway and I get hugs. The 5th graders, they're too cool for it now, but most of them give me hugs and I'll get a head nod from the 5th graders. And my 1st graders are like, they all know you, you're famous. And I'm like, I'm not famous, but it's great. But with all of that being said, I am grateful for the impact that roles like student success coaches have on both the students that we serve and AmeriCorps members like I was. For the next session, we have a panel of district and higher education leaders who have led cross-sector partnerships to support student success, spotlighting 3 different models of how high-impact student supports have been successfully implemented in communities or regions across the country. And with that, I'm excited to introduce the moderator of our panel, Assistant Secretary for Planning, Evaluation, and Policy Development. At the U.S. Department of Education, Roberto Rodriguez. In his role as Assistant Secretary, Roberto leads the development and review of the department's budget and advises the Secretary on all matters related to policy development, implementation, and review. Roberto's distinguished career in public service includes senior government roles in the White House as Deputy Assistant for Education to President Barack Obama, and in the U.S. Senate as Chief Counsel to the late Senator Edward M. Kennedy. Most recently, Rodriguez served as President and CEO to Teach Plus, where he built an equity-driven teacher leadership movement that engaged thousands of teachers to shape public policy and instructional practice to deliver greater opportunity for students. So with that, I will turn it over.
Thank you so much, Keisha, for that wonderful introduction. Thank you for being with us and for your example in the classroom. I have to say, one of the wonderful things of today's celebration as we think about the National Partnership for Student Success and its opportunity to drive change and opportunity in the lives of our students, we think about the pipeline that we need to build and support for our talented educators to serve and support our students in the classroom. And again, just wonderful seeds that are being planted with the National Partnership for Student Success to that end too. So thank you so much, Keisha. Alexis and Jameer, thank you so much for your examples. Let's give them another round of applause. And, you know, I want to thank so many folks that all of you for making it possible for us to be here today and to celebrate and remark on this great progress. You know, in our careers here at the federal level, there are moments where you're really digging in to meet the moment and working to really craft a response that is an all hands on deck response. And at the federal level, it's about how do you work with partners to try to make that happen. We're so fortunate to have had the president's charge, President Biden's charge, to bring 250,000 additional adults and young people, mentors, students, tutors, student success coaches into our schools. As we were crafting that, we had such great partnership in CEO Smith and his team. So I want to thank you, Michael, for your leadership and ask us to give him another round of applause. AmeriCorps has been so great in this work. So I have the great privilege of facilitating our next conversation, which is really to get beyond some of the celebrations this morning and understand what makes for a great partnership, what makes for this all hands on deck moment, and what has fueled the level of success that we've seen already across the National Partnership for Student Success. So to share some of those insights and experiences and examples, we have three tremendous leaders with us today. I'm going to ask them to join me on stage, please, as I introduce them. We have, as you've heard, our former Secretary of Education under President Obama, our 10th U.S. Secretary of Education, Dr. John King, who is now Chancellor of the State University of New York system. John's leadership has been indispensable in helping to shape American education and higher education here in DC. I was honored to serve alongside him here in the Obama administration, and the people of New York are so fortunate to have him. We have Dr. Louis Ferebee, who is our Chancellor here of DC Public Schools. Dr. Ferebee, thank you for being with us. You know, when I was at Teach Plus, you were such a wonderful partner in Indianapolis in helping to recognize and elevate teacher leadership. Your leadership there, 15-point increase in graduation rates in Indy. And we are so lucky to have you here in the district helping to support our learners. Thank you for being here with us today. And then we have Dr. Rachel Pfeifer, who is the Executive Director of Academics for Baltimore City Public Schools, working to support the learning and success of our students in the city of Baltimore alongside our friend Sonia Santelises. Thank you so much, Dr. Pfeifer, for being with us. Please have a seat. I'm going to come join you. We're going to go ahead and get started. So, let's begin. I'm actually going to begin with you, Chancellor Ferebee, ask you a little bit about the work that's underway here in DC Public Schools. You've worked, we've heard of historic new announcement by our mayor, actually, for nearly $40 million around tutoring, multi-year tutoring project here in DC. We know our young people continue to struggle with the effects of the pandemic on lost instructional time. Talk to us a little bit about what the district is doing to support tutoring here for our students, and what is the role that the National Partnership for Student Success is playing in that?
Thank you for that question. Make sure is my microphone on? Okay. Is it on now?
Yeah, there we go.
There we go. Thank you for that question. So first of all, it's great to be alongside. It's an honor, Chancellor. Great to see you again. Appreciate the work you're doing, and also Director Pfeifer. When I think about the work that we are doing in DC Public Schools, you know, there's no magic solution, right? We're in this tremendous recovery process to ensure our students are taking a step forward academically, socially, emotionally as well. And we do that first through our Tier 1 instruction. So we're very fortunate to have educators like Ms. Harris, who you heard from earlier, who are thinking about whatever is possible in the classroom as it relates to what needs to happen for students to succeed accordingly. But we have doubled down on our efforts for intensive tutoring. In DC Public Schools, in DC, we refer to that as high impact tutoring. And we do rely on our educators, but we also rely a lot on our partners to support us to ensure that students are getting that additional time in math and reading. Really also fortunate that we were ahead of the curve around our development for science of reading. We've also done some curriculum work around math as well, as we know that's been a challenge in math. And fortunately, we're really close to where we were pre-pandemic in reading. So we know we have some more work to do with math. But when we think about how do we make the type of progress that we want to achieve happen at an accelerated rate, we know that having that individualized one-to-one or small group tutoring effort is vital to ensuring our students experience success. And so I can't say enough about our Mayor Bowser. As you mentioned, we've had over $35 million invested in high-impact tutoring citywide, which is phenomenal. We have over 70% of our schools in DCPS are implementing our high-impact tutoring efforts. And then we also have 11 priority schools that have a high-impact tutor coordinator. So this individual takes the load off the principal in coordinating the external supports that are coming in and also coordinating the staff that's providing this high impact tutoring as well. So as a result, we served over 7,000 students last year in our high impact tutoring. Again, that's one-to-one, a small group. And what we saw is we were serving the right students, right? So we relied on our multi-tier system of support to identify the students in need. And what we found is that over 80% of the students that were served were students that were identified at risk. And we also saw that we look at the results of the progress made, they certainly outpaced their peers in academic performance progress last year. So really proud that we have the partners that can help us, but also we've coordinated in a very intentional way for our educators to support our students.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that overview. And so, this is a multi-year effort, I know. Can you share with us a little bit, is there a federal role here? We have here at the department $130 billion put forth through the American Rescue Plan. Has the federal dollars supported that work at all? And where are you aiming to be at the end of this process here? Like, what's success look like for DC?
Our federal dollars were key to ensuring that we had the resources to provide the most intensive level of tutoring. And also improving our Tier 1 instruction.
Yeah.
And so the ways that we were providing our summer institutes for educators, our science of reading training, we relied a lot on our federal dollars and also through the Office of the State Superintendent of Education, which also received those federal resources.
May be here with us today too.
I think Dr. Grant will be joining us, but that office coordinated a lot of those efforts and helped us maximize our resources. And we're still in implementation of our extra dollars right now. So the schools that I mentioned, the coordinators, many of those individuals are supported through federal resources. And we have the investments from Mayor Bowser in the city to support it and also to sustain the work.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Ferebee. Appreciate that. Dr. Pfeifer, let's talk a little bit about Baltimore and what's happening in Baltimore. I mean, I just was so deeply impressed by how quickly the response ramped up at the beginning of the pandemic for our students in the city, right? And there was that kind of roll your sleeves up. How do we get our homes connected that may not be connected? What are the partnerships we need to see with providers around broadband? And of course, now thinking about the people who fuel that recovery. You've focused a lot, in addition to the tutoring work, and talked a bit to Sonia about that too, the mentoring work in Baltimore. Talk to us a little bit about the role that NPSS supports play in systematizing mentoring there in your schools.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that you reference is we were able to start things quickly in Baltimore because we'd been doing a lot of thinking and planning before the pandemic even started. And so we had been saying for years, every student needs an adult to provide guidance and support. And so, in the midst of COVID coming, we had this opportunity, really, in the midst of the devastation we were seeing. We had the opportunity to use, ESSER funding, to use Title IV funding, to actually put in place centralized supports for mentoring at the district, to be able to not just get more mentoring happening. We have over 120 mentoring programs that were already up and running in the city, but we didn't have the level of coordination at the district level to really make the matches happen in meaningful ways. And so we were able to staff a team that provides technical assistance, creates professional learning communities for our mentoring organizations. And my favorite part is that they actually consult with schools. So they will sit down with schools and say, what are your priority areas? Which students are you trying to serve and have the greatest need, just like you mentioned, Chancellor Ferebee. And then based on that, they say, well, here are some programs that already exist that would help meet that need. And that's just very different than what we were experiencing before. We're mentoring organizations. We're trying to figure out how to navigate bureaucracy and which schools to pick, and principals were getting floods of people who were saying, pick me, I'll help you, but not really able to navigate whether those folks were the right match for them and their students.
Right. And I know there in Baltimore, you are data-driven and data-focused around success. And we know what a difference that social and emotional learning, that connection to students, those relationships, right, that we talked about on our first panel, those matter so greatly. How is the mentoring supporting your academic recovery in the city?
Yeah, well, I'm so glad you asked about that, because it really has been amazing to see, after a moment where we really did all hold our breath, right, to say what's going to happen. Right. We are seeing gains for our students. We're seeing, when we look at our youngest learners, we're seeing that our kindergartners are outperforming the state in their kind of early literacy testing, or their early literacy testing. I should say, actually, the nation. They're outperforming the nation in terms of what we're seeing there. We're seeing that our first and second grade students have a trajectory that is increasing faster than the rest of the country. And I really do think it's a space where, again, as was mentioned, you bring in additional resources where the groundwork has already been laid, and you really do see that acceleration that we wanted to see for our students. We're seeing the same when in 2019, our proficiency in reading was about 19% for our 3rd through 8th graders in ELA. Not where we wanted to be. Yeah. We saw gains from 21.4% to 26% in 21 to 22. And that trajectory is what we want to continue to see as we move forward.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So, Chancellor King, let's go to you. And, you've been at the helm of so many of these opportunities to meet the moment and drive change. We talked, I heard my friend Michael reference My Brother's Keeper, which you helped to support as we were thinking about that back during the Obama days. I want to talk a little bit about the role that SUNY is playing here. But before we do, just share with the audience here why NPSS, why this initiative in this moment, and why has SUNY chosen to be part of the National Partnership for Student Success?
Yeah, it's such a pleasure to be here and to be back in this room. A few thoughts. One is, our higher ed institutions are citizens of the community, and we look out and we see in our K-12 schools the tremendous impact that COVID had and the disruptions had. We know the students who are significantly behind, disproportionately Black students, Latino students, low-income students, rural students. Those are our future students at all of our institutions, and they're the kids in our community. And so we have a moral responsibility to act with urgency to help meet the moment, to meet those needs. And college students are a tremendous resource because of the relationships they can build with young people, because of the time they can commit to provide the kind of high quality tutoring that NPSS aspires to deliver. There's also an educational mission for us. When I think about even my own experience as an undergraduate, it was the time spent tutoring, working with young people, running summer programs that led me to become a teacher, changed my life, introduced me to issues and challenges that opened my mind and so much enriched my academic experience. And so for us, the opportunity to have our students out in the community supporting young people advances our educational mission. We also hope we'll have more Keishas, right? That some of our students will decide, because of that tutoring experience, to become teachers. We have a national crisis, particularly recruiting teachers for our high needs schools, bilingual educators, educators focused on students with disabilities. And this is an opportunity to create an additional pipeline. So we're really proud to have 14 SUNY campuses that are participating in NPSS, and we are excited to grow that number.
Well, thank you, Chancellor. I will say SUNY was the first higher education system to step up and respond to that charge. As you heard, we now have almost 50 higher education leaders. Again, an all hands on deck moment with our post-secondary system rolling their sleeves up with our K-12 system. What is the role of work study in that space, Chancellor King, and how can that federal investment help support more of our young people in college to be part of the lives of our school-age kids?
Yeah, it's so important, and I really appreciate the leadership, your leadership, and the Biden administration's leadership in making clear that work study can be used for public service. That's important clarity because there are misconceptions in the higher ed community around that. And look, I love that students are able to work in the library, but I also want them to have the opportunity to have impact in communities through service. And I want that to be available to all students. And one of the challenges on campuses is that for students who have to work, sometimes it's a difficult choice where they want to serve, they want to contribute to the community, but they feel like they can't because they need to work. Right. So to be able to solve that for them by making work study available, very powerful. Another piece is, look, we all know high impact tutoring, well-trained tutors, high quality materials with support and supervision can have a huge impact on students' academic performance. We also know there's a lot happening in the United States under the banner of tutoring that is not that. And part of what work study makes possible is systematizing these things, saying, this is your job. You're going to have training. You're going to have supervision. You're going to come regularly. You're not going to say, oh, well, today I don't really feel like going, or, I got to get my fantasy football lineup set up, so I don't know if I can make it. This is to say, this is a responsibility, a commitment you've made. And so work study helps in that way. The other thing I'd say is, for us at SUNY, I think it's helped our institutions get on board more quickly, because we're saying these are resources that are already available to you. Let's focus those resources on this huge community need.
Thank you. We're grateful for SUNY as a model system for our country to learn from in terms of its commitment and responsibility for that type of comprehensive approach. You mentioned the opportunity to systematize, right, and to, as we say here at the department, raise the bar on the quality and intensity of services and supports for our students. That is a critical part of fueling this academic recovery. And again, it is a critical part of the DNA of NPSS. Right? It is why there is a technical assistance hub and a set of national partners that you all have heard about, and many of you have stepped up to support. That is the hub that helps to support the integrity of that mentoring, of that tutoring, of that academic support, coaching. Mentor is one of NPSS's technical assistance partners as part of that hub. Provides districts and youth development organizations support to make sure that those are successful efforts. I'm going to ask you, Dr. Pfeifer, if you can share a little bit with us about how the technical assistance partnership through NPSS has impacted how you think about mentorship, for instance, in the district?
Absolutely. So Mentor and our local affiliate, Mentor Maryland DC, was with us from the very beginning, from creating a landscape analysis for us so that we had a better sense of what was happening in our city, connecting us with Fresno and Kansas City, other school districts we learned from, looking at their models to understand how we wanted to build our own. Youth voice is incredibly important to us in Baltimore. We know that it's just best practice for building good things. And so Mentor helped lead focus groups with our young people to understand what they wanted in mentoring programs. So when we actually put together our mentoring office and our mentoring team, it wasn't, it was built out with this expertise and the support that just led to really strong infrastructure for us then to run with it in Baltimore style, right? We always make things our own, but it's so great not to have to reinvent the wheel in doing so.
It's fantastic. Thank you. And then, the tutoring that we heard about that's happening here in the district, the big charge that we have to help support academic recovery here. Can you share, Dr. Ferebee, how have the partnerships through NPSS and across the city with other community-based partners, national partners that come in and support high quality tutoring? As we've said, not all tutoring is created equal here. So what role have those partners played in the success of your program?
They played a critical role, and I think Chancellor King hit the nail on the head. It's a great opportunity for members of our community to be a part of the solution, right? But our higher institutions have been lockstep with it. So if you think about a true all hands on deck approach, I can't say enough about the higher ed institutions here. In fact, we have a phenomenal partnership with George Washington University. So I promise you, they're not working on their fantasy football leagues. They are with us, particularly around mathematics. And so what we found is there's a lot of resources in our higher institutions with our college students with helping us take a step forward with mathematics and mathematics tutoring, particularly with our secondary students. Yeah. And so we're really fortunate to have this partnership, and our college students, they want to be trained, they want to understand best practices, and they also are much more, I think, engaged in what it means to be an educator. And my hope is, as we see the results come from academic progress, I'm a story like Keisha. I was a biology major and my parents were educators. They told me don't become an educator, but I volunteered in a local elementary school and I changed my major to elementary education. So my hope is that that also unfolds as we see this, but we know that we've seen progress as a result of the partnerships we made, specifically our math. Every student who received their appropriate dosage from last year in math that was below grade level improved a level in proficiency. And in fact, if we look at our beginning of year assessment data, our math results are much stronger than where we were last year. So we're headed in the right direction. And a lot of that is attributed to the partnerships that we have.
Well, and the proof for you in the district and in Baltimore is the data, right? So I just thank you for continue to bring that forward, right? For being beacons of what's possible here when we double down and deliver that evidence-based support that our young people need around reading and math to be able to ramp up. The academic support coaching and the college coaching that the partners bring through NPSS can be so transformational to helping our young people begin sooner to think about planning for their future, right? Begin sooner to have that conversation around what does post-secondary education look like for me? What's the first step that I need to take? Often that first step is filling out the FAFSA, right? And our administration is doing a lot of work right now in helping to redesign the FAFSA so that that's a more seamless process for our young people and their families. I'm going to ask you, Chancellor King, if you can say a little bit more about SUNY's work and your work around helping our high school students on that path to college. What are you most excited about at SUNY and in New York around helping young people prepare for college and for success?
Yeah, so two things. One, we were very excited recently to announce the launch of a SUNY AmeriCorps FAFSA completion corps. And so we'll have college students on 6 of our campuses who will be trained to support prospective students and their families in completing the FAFSA. And so we want to leverage service to smooth the path to college for our students. But second, we also just about a week ago had a FAFSA completion summit with our partners in public higher ed, private higher ed, the state education department, the folks who do financial aid at the state level. HASC, we brought them all together to talk about FAFSA completion because we're nervous, right, that the delay till December and excited about the simplification, but no, it will be different and we need to train folks and so forth. And so we brought people together to try to learn from best practices around the country. And we're making the case, and I hope we'll do this in New York, that we should move to a universal FAFSA completion policy, the way that Texas has, California has, Louisiana has. Look, last year in New York, students left $200 million on the table in unclaimed financial aid. And we've got to fix that. And we're going to try and fix that with the FAFSA completion corps and with policy change.
That's great. Right. It is this, again, a challenge and an invitation for us to all work together to make sure that our young people have every opportunity they need to be ready to be on that path to college. So, just as we close, I'm going to, again, all of the statistics, all of the data, our reading improvement, our math improvement, the connections to our students in mentoring and supporting their success, the work that we're doing around college access and readiness, the great pipeline of talent from our higher education system coming into our K-12 system. We hope we can keep more of those graduates as educators and leaders in classrooms long term. All of these statistics, all of that work comes back down to lives and learning for students, right? This is why the president put forth this charge for 250,000 more relationships wrapped around our young people to help them succeed. So I just would love to close us out by asking each of you to maybe share a story from how you've seen those relationships, those connections through NPSS make a difference in the life of a learner. And maybe I can start with you, Dr. Pfeifer.
Sure. Michael mentioned earlier the importance of having an adult who's not your parent, who's involved in your life. And one of our NPSS partners, I mentor, right, who's been involved in Baltimore, just the story of a young man named Cameron. Cameron is 6'7", right, and gets a lot of questions about whether he plays sports and what he wants to do. But what he loved were his honors classes, and really trying to think through what his college trajectory could be. And he had a mentor named Will. They were matched when Cameron was in 10th grade, and just having that additional adult to be able to say, you know what, don't worry about what everybody else is saying. Don't worry about what everybody else is asking. You are free to be able to create your story for yourself. And they're still connecting, right? And he managed his own journey to college, and again, still sees Will as an ongoing support. When we talk about hope, we know it's not just having a vision for change, but it's having that pathway to get there. And so that's the kind of hope that we hope to see and build over and over in Baltimore for our students as we have these connections develop.
That's great. Thank you. Dr. Ferebee.
I could give you so many, so
sure,
I'll give you two quickly.
Yes.
So I think the intersection of mentoring and tutoring is so lovely to watch and inspiring to watch. And I think about two examples. One, a middle school student in our quest for our students to feel loved, challenged, and prepared. And Sousa Middle School in Southeast DC, and it was great to hear a young person, one of our math tutors from George Washington University, shows up consistently and provides a level of support in mathematics. But just hearing from that young person that I matter, right? I matter. This person is showing up for me week after week, and they're providing me support. They're coming with patience. They're coming with care, and just this sense of importance and value, and the way it changed the perspective of that young person. Again, it's so lovely to watch, and they have a different outlook on life because someone else is invested in me. The second I would say is around confidence. So I think about a high school student, Blue High School, also in Southeast DC. If those of you know DC, you know Southeast DC. We had a student, typical, I've never been good in math, in geometry in high school, struggling. And we have a partner called Raising a Village, right? And so they're truly in this spirit of it takes a village. But the confidence building that came from the support and the gradual improvement, the understanding around the mathematical concepts, and now that young person is thinking about college and potentially a career in math, but also being a math educator, right? And so I think this notion that you have someone that is caring and is a mentor while they're also providing academic support is what we ultimately want to achieve, and it's great for me to watch.
There it is. Thank you.
One quick story and a challenge to the room. So the quick story, I was talking to a student yesterday, Madison, who is at our upstate medical center, one of our 4 medical schools that's in Syracuse, New York. And she's a busy medical student, but she is spending 2 hours twice a week at Rise Above Poverty Reading Clinic in Syracuse, working with second graders to help them improve their reading. And what was so interesting about the conversation was not only the positive impact she's having on the reading skills of the second grader she's working with, but she described it as the most satisfying thing she's doing all week. And her passion, the way that it is inspiring her, motivating her, was really beautiful to see, and we need more of that. And so the challenge I would give to the room is, Michael Smith mentioned we were just at this event with President Clinton celebrating 30 years of AmeriCorps. Amazing impact AmeriCorps has had over these 30 years, but it should be 10 times as big. And I think our collective challenge is how do we go out from here and not just close the gap, those additional tens of thousands of volunteers we need to meet the NPSS goal, but how do we move the national conversation so that AmeriCorps, when we gather here 5 years from now, or 10 years from now, is 10 times as big? What would that mean for the country? What would that mean for our ability to tackle not only the disruption of COVID, but to tackle the reading needs that we see across our school district, tackle the impact of climate change on the country, to tackle the challenge of violence in our communities? And so we all should go out from here, as Michael would say, fired up. There it is.
What a beautiful charge. Thank you, Chancellor King. Right, it's not enough. Let's not stop at 70,000 more to get to our 250,000 goal. Let's go for hundreds of thousands more so that every young person in our schools has the opportunity to be mentored and supported in their learning and development. Thank you, Chancellor King, Dr. Ferebee, Dr. Pfeifer. Thank you for answering the call. Thank you for your leadership in the National Partnership for Student Success. Let's give our panel a round of applause.